The recovery of spiritual energy triggered a riot of fierce beasts. Taking advantage of this riot, a girl named Suling tries to escape from the police officers. A group of officers was chasing her while she was running. An officer takes his gun and shoots in the direction of Suling. Another officer scolds him for doing this as there are beasts that are following her and they can't afford a wild beast attacking them sooner. They realize that they shot one of the teasing teeth of a wild boar. One of the officers shoots the boar within the missile and reloads to shoot another one. Suddenly, a shock wave arises from a creature, and that creature reveals itself to be the king of mountains. The golden lion. All the officers were in awe of the lion. Zora wonders if the lion is really made of gold. There is only one way to know, so one officer tries to shoot him, but the lion jumps off and lands near the officer, throwing him away in one blow. The officer with a missile shoots him with it, but the lion locks his finger into the hole of the missile. When the officer presses the trigger, the lion ends up killing his companions along with himself. The lion now thinks that he shouldn't have obliterated the complete army as it's his fault that he is too strong and can't control his energy properly. Currently, this reveals our protagonist, Liu Fan, who is an orphan. After graduating from university, he became a proud migrant worker, but he accidentally traveled to the planet where the aura was revived and reincarnated into a golden lion, and he got a system with it that keeps getting stronger no matter what he does. Achievements just keep getting unlocked. Another monster arrives at the scene, named Shu, to tell him that a few monkeys were wiped out nearby. The Lion King says that he has nothing to do with this matter. He then later asks about the girl who was running from these officers. Suddenly another monster named Green Snake arrives and pities himself for falling into the tide of beasts because of the impact of the explosion. All three monsters were now assembled. They noticed the girl lying dead on the ground in bad shape with teared-up clothes. They went near her. After seeing the girl up close, Liu got an unusual feeling about her. Even though she is dead, her body is full of energy. He blew something on her. After a while, a projection appeared from the girl with a beautiful face and long white hair. Watching her at first sight got Liu interested. They all went to the cave ruins on Lion Mountain. The ghost that appeared couldn't stop crying. Liu asks her to stop and says that if she doesn't want to be a ghost, she can always go give birth. Suddenly, the system gives Liu a message. Harvest to host Liu is startled by this message. He realizes that it's the first time that he has received a highly directional message from the system. Before, it was only about achievements. Liu directly confronts her and asks, "Don't you understand that her crying is also making other people sad?" A girl named Kinkanio explains to the ghost not to be afraid, it's just that the Lion King is too straightforward. Sometimes she reveals that Liu left his evil spirit in her soul so she could be condensed. Kinkanil herself relied on the king's evil spirit to transform into a demon, but relying on the king's monster aura doesn't make you a monster. There are more than two conditions. The first is one special constitution. Second is obsession in one's heart. Now she asks the ghost why she was being hunted by humans earlier, but she still hesitates to tell anything. Kinkanil assures her that they are at least more credible than those humans. She thinks for a while and finally speaks out. Her name is Su Ling and she lives in Mang Village at the foot of Lion Mountain. Since the recovery of spiritual energy, people in Mang Village have gone missing, and there are currently only 20 or 30 people left. One of the officers slaps him and points the gun at his grandson. Now the man doesn't have any choice but to agree to whatever these officers say. All the villagers follow the officers. The old man who was hit before starts acting weird and suddenly disappears. Everyone wonders where did the old man go. All of a sudden the officers ignore him and start pushing the villagers one by one into deep dark forest area. They all were terrified, but it's not like they had any choice, so they followed officers' orders. It turned out that they were using the villagers to find their way through the forest. Every villager disappears suddenly after walking into the black mist for a period of time. Whenever the villagers disappeared, they made the next one to go in this way. The villagers disappeared one by one until it was her turn. She tried escaping from them as she knew she was going to die either way. She walked into the black mist in one direction unconsciously. While she was running she saw a hologram of her parents, but they were gone as soon as she blinked her eyes. She realized that she had fallen into a pit. She noticed a magical flower in front of her. She guesses that the gang must be after this flower and the coffin. Besides, she can't destroy the coffin by any means, but she can do something about the flower, so the gang never succeeds in their mission. She ate the flower. After she ate it, her body became very light, and she could clearly see everything in the night. Later, as she hid from them, she took the coffin with her. The man in charge scolds the whole gang, as the flower is also as important as the coffin, and he needs it as soon as possible, no matter what the cost. He suspects the girl who ran off on her own must be behind this. So he orders everyone to search for the girl and get the flower, even if they have to kill her. So the group kept chasing her, and later she came near Lion Mountain. King Kanya feels very angry about these officers for being so bad to the villagers. Liu understands that this girl ate the spirit coffin flower, which granted her a special constitution, and no doubt revenge is her obsession. The sarcophagus and the flower are considered rare kinds of treasures. Besides this, all this has happened near the Lion Mountain, so Liu thinks he has to do something about it. Not to ignore this, a king also needs to have a pair of eyes outside since the system has asked Flu to bind with this girl being Liu's ghost. Business is his business. He asks out to the girl if she would like to be Liu's ghost. She thinks for a while and agrees on being one. Liu wonders if his body can also be regained. The system that Liu got made him stronger regardless of what he did, and this kind of phenomenon was occurring for the first time since Li successfully bonded with the ghost. First, he decides to check out this young body fragment. This fragment can allow him to regain his human body. Liu asks Su if her obsession is to take revenge on those officers. She rather hesitates answering this question, as she wouldn't like to cause any trouble for the Lion King. She believes she already has a home now thanks to Liu, but she still misses her relatives, even though they might all be dead by now. She can't just leave them like this. Leo applauds her for having a heavy heart at such a young age to help her. Liu creates his miniature avatar. The second recovery of the spiritual energy can happen at any time, so he explains that he needs to protect this place, so he hands over his avatar to Su. He also creates an extremely powerful and sharp weapon and gives it to her. It's dark and foggy outside, which is why they will need this for protection. Su was overwhelmed by Liu's kindness towards her King Camille and also decided to help her out, so she transformed into a small fairy that emits light. This will be useful for them to navigate in the dark. Su appreciates her efforts. They all go to the place where all the villagers were dispersed. After the group captivated the coffin, the black mist also disappeared. However, the ghost atmosphere here is still too strong. As they further go ahead, Su is terrified to see Mr. Li's skeleton. He was also killed by the black mist. King Camille thinks this is too evil because, even though they died yesterday, their bodies turned into skeletons. Liu couldn't see Su suffer more, which is why he performs his magic and purifies the wrong souls of all the dead villagers, which will allow them to be reincarnated in Sudig's proper graves for each of the dead villagers so their bodies can rest in peace, but she still isn't satisfied as her parents are still missing. Kinkanya suggests they get deeper into the forest. They keep walking deep inside the forest for a while. Then suddenly Liu senses someone else's presence just ahead of them. He sniffs to gather as much intelligence as he can. Gunpowder fully loaded and armed with live ammunition. Su warriors just friend ahead was the place where the coffin was placed. The group set up camp right where the coffin was located. They seemed very frustrated over Su. They were enjoying their meals, and their meal was none other than the villagers. The two skeletons in front of them were Su's parents because they believed she would definitely come searching for them. One of the officers crushed the scale head with his foot. Su was filled with rage after seeing her parents like this, but Liu told her to calm down and not make a move as he sensed someone else coming at the scene. Suddenly, a helicopter arrived there, and a female officer named Mei Young came out of it. The whole group referred to her as Master. She was a jacked and muscular woman. She asked the reason for only bringing the sarcophagus back and not the flower with it. They explained that a girl stole it and ran away, but she couldn't care less. The reason she was here was different. She was looking for something more precious. She jumps into the soil and grabs some of it in her palms. Liu's system detects it as 3 lives. Soul soil, which seems to be very rare. On the other hand, Liu's original body could feel loads of energy flowing through his body. Demon Konsk first triggered this. He could actually see this energy flowing through his veins. When he looks at the monster in front of him, he could see same energy flowing through her veins too. Although the system has always made him stronger, it's the first time he has awakened ability like this. He concentrates and focuses to find where is this source of energy. He eventually finds it underground below the mountain. Back to the sarcophagus site, the rest of the group recognizes as the soil to be very precious. One of the members says that it's a great achievement for Master Mei, although it seems like great success is not something Mei wants. She gives a keen look towards the group. They start explaining that they would keep this a secret. She points to her sword at the officer's neck. She believes that a secret can only be kept by dead. As soon as she says this, rest of the group start seeing her as danger and point their guns at her. In panic, she uses the band in her hand to paralyze the officers and slaughters them all with her sword. She then takes some of their blood and pours it onto 3 life soul soil. She says that this is even more stronger than that sarcophagus. As soon as she pours it onto the soil emits some kind of energy. She reveals that to use the villagers to find the way up to here was her plan all along. As soon as Su hears this, she couldn't control herself and jumps on to attack Mei, but Mei quickly swings her sword and evades the attack. Liu wonders how Mei is able to see Zio. Zio subconsciously dogged the knife even though she is a ghost and cannot be cut. They couldn't actually see Zio, she just swung the sword at her instincts, but after she wore some magic, she could clearly see everything. Su was burning with anger, and she wants to avenge her parents. Su asks her if she remembers her. Mei compares her to an ant and says that she doesn't recall how many ants she has trampled until now. Su was pissed. As Liu witnessed the fight, he thought about how Mei acted so calmly, even after seeing a ghost like Zio. He thinks that she has a special way to deal with ghosts and realizes that this fight isn't good for Su. Mei attacks her with her knife. Su tries to dodge it, but to her surprise, her clothes get torn by the slash of her knife. She couldn't understand why this had happened. Mei's cloud knife is designed to cut ghosts, that's why it worked on Su now. Su has no choice but to avoid the attacks from the knife and attack her on her blind spot. As she was thinking about this, Mei attack her suddenly. Right now she seems invincible. As Konkania watched Su struggle against me, she asks the Lion King to do something and help her. He also plans to jump into the fight. As the fierce fight continued between both of them, Mei attacked Su. But it was like she moved her sword in midair cause she couldn't see Su anymore. Su took advantage of her blind spot and put her knife into Mei's neck from behind. Now both Liu and Kinkanil have come out of the bushes. Liu says it was not very much of a bad performance from Su, she barely passed as being Liu's ghost. Su apologizes for being too reckless and promises to do better next time. Liu thinks that Mei's bracelet should be some kind of magic weapon that can sense murderous auras, so whenever an enemy attacks, the bracelet warns her. That's how she avoided Su's first attack and wore the glasses to make sure of Su's existence. Now Konkaniel realizes that Liu deliberately sent a murderous aura towards her to distract her. Su appreciates Liu's help in defeating Mei, and suddenly they all sense someone huge standing behind Su. Ling was surprised when she was revived, but Fan remained calm. Yun wanted Ling to die and prepared for a massive strike, but Ling managed to block the powerful blow. She aimed to keep herself safe from the attacks of the Fan and Juice swords, as they were highly effective against spirits and both of them were currently in their soul states. Ling let the sword slide off and seized the opportunity for a counterattack, immediately cutting off Yun's arm and explaining that she had previously killed cows for her village and knew how to handle a knife. Small black threads formed from the severed arm and reconnected with Yun's main body. Ling was shocked and couldn't believe what she was seeing. The Fan, who seemed to be beside Young's body, realized that Ling had indeed defeated her, but he wondered why her clone was still alive. He decided to use his newfound intelligence to figure out what was happening and focused on seeing 3 young shells. He discovered that the aura came from the soul's soil. The Fan recalled that Yun had previously let her blood drip onto the ground. Yun swung her arm, still connected by the threads, but Ling blocked the attacks. She realized that her attack range had increased, but her attack speed had significantly slowed down. Yun pulled her arm back. Ling seized the opportunity and sprinted towards her to attack with her Shadow Snow Thousand Slash technique, which landed a direct hit. However, the black threads reappeared and held Yun's body together once again. Ling was slightly surprised and overwhelmed. The thread spread and overwhelmed me. Ling Zhu pleaded with Fan for help, but he was afraid to intervene since his clone was also a primordial spirit, and it would hurt like hell if he got hit. So for now, he decided not to interfere. The black threads engulfed Ling and disarmed her. She was completely overtaken by the black threads. The threads approached her teary, and suddenly a golden slash appeared and severed the connection between the threads. Young's clone was surprised that Fan had used the first Young body fragment to further develop his body into a more human-like form. He told Ling that he had told her not to be so reckless. Ling was relieved that Fan had saved her in this desperate situation and looked at him gratefully. Yun's clone stepped forward. Fan ordered Zhu and Ling to cover their ears and empty their minds, which they obediently did. Fan inhaled blue magic and wore a powerful blue shock wave towards Yun, polarizing her directly. Fan reached for the surgeon's wielded end. Despite it not being too bad, he was somewhat disappointed that he didn't receive another fragment. However, the sword continued to enhance the lion's attributes. Fan grabbed his throat, which was a bit sore from his loud scream. He noticed that his throat felt somewhat fluffy, and when he looked in a mirror, he saw that he was half lion, half human, with the human appearance being a few levels higher. He thought he didn't look bad at all. He also mentioned that the area he wished to have back was different and pulled his waistband forward. Zhu said that the Fan had used too much power and not only pulverized Jean but also wiped out the soul soil. Fan replied that she shouldn't care about such minor details, but Zhu was thrilled with her master's new appearance. The system then showed that Fan had absorbed the soul soil, and his intelligence increased by 7 points, reaching level 2. This allowed him to see the spiritual energy in the air, and he realized that he would continue to grow stronger just by breathing if he followed the system's instructions. The system also displayed a progress bar above Lane, indicating how far she was currently in the mission. Ling thanked Fan, and he replied that he knew she wasn't satisfied with her revenge, yet he went to a brown cloak on the ground and put it on, saying that they would have to go further down the mountain for more information. As a result, the sun rose, and it was a beautiful sunrise for our group to admire. Since you didn't have a young body like Fan's, she had to hide from the sun, so she quickly flew under the cloak that Fan had just put on. Ling also wanted to save herself and ran towards Fan. He told her she couldn't do that, and he remembered that Lane could possess other bodies. He suggested taking over Yun's body, but Ling didn't want to do that and started crying again. Fan asked why she couldn't do it and stopped her from going under his cloak with one hand. She replied that Yun was too ugly once the sun had risen. Our heroes were already on their way to the valley. Ling reluctantly found herself in Young's body, and Fan reminded her to behave just like Yun if they encountered soldiers. Ling in Young's body bowed and agreed that she understood that Fan now wanted to meet the group of soldiers shortly after Lenyan Fan encountered a group of soldiers. While waiting by a helicopter, one of the soldiers yawned while another smoked. A soldier greeted the presumed Yun and asked if she had found what she was looking for. Ling replied that she had found it, and the soldier asked what the next step was without comment. A Fan followed Ling and boarded the helicopter. Ling told the soldier that they would go back to where they came from. The soldier then asked who the Fan was. Ling replied that it didn't concern him. Fan sat in a helicopter completely covered except for his eyes and received another attribute increase from the system. The helicopter took off and flew over a large, green forest that stretched across the mountains on the horizon. The pilot announced that they had arrived in Lion Ridge City and that it would take another 10 minutes before they could land. The city was a large modern city surrounded by a huge wall and dominated by skyscrapers. Massive bodies towered over the wall, and giant bones were scattered around. The soldiers mocked the people on the ground who were examining the monster corpses, hoping to find the monster core and sell it on the black market. Ling looked ahead motionlessly and stubbornly, exuding a menacing and annoyed aura. One soldier immediately retorted that he wasn't interested in making money but would be satisfied to have a captain like Liu Fan. He noticed that unlike the flourishing Lion Mountain, the human cities had been struck by an apocalyptic blow and were perishing. The helicopter landed, and Ling was informed that they had reached their desired location. She praised the good work and then proceeded to kill the two soldiers. Afterward, they made their way to a building belonging to the Strong Organization. The building's entrance bore a sign with the name, Strong Organization. Zhu mentioned that the enemy base didn't appear very strong and could be easily destroyed with a simple war. Fan explained that they didn't need to overdo it and that he wanted to play with them first. By now it was night again, and our group took care of several employees of the building who lay motionless on the ground. Fan licked it up and was somewhat disappointed because it was too small for him. Zhu said that she had investigated the premises and believed there would be a clue here. The Fan noticed something that concentrated some energy in his eyes, allowing him to see through the walls and discern a woman's silhouette behind one of them. The woman prepared to fight, drew a weapon, and positioned herself. Ling was about to open the door, but Fan held her back because he wanted to handle it alone. The woman who had been hiding noticed that the group was approaching her. She drew her weapon and fired a shot. The bullet hit Fan, prompting Ling to insult the woman and draw her knife. However, Fan held her shoulder and reassured her that he was fine. He wondered what kind of technology produced bullets made of spiritual energy. The woman who had fired wondered why. The bullet had no effect and whether Fan was an awakener. Shocked and panicked, she unleashed a volley of bullets at our group, but all the bullets hit Fan's without any effect. Fan snapped their fingers and shattered the woman's weapon into tiny pieces. Startled and paralyzed for a few seconds, Fan seized the opportunity and grabbed the woman's wrists, holding them above her head, to assert their dominance. The woman's breasts barely held by her blouse moved up and down. She realized that Fan was a beast man and wondered what kind of technology was behind it. The woman screamed that he could do whatever he wanted with her. Fan asked the woman if she apparently didn't belong to the organization and who she worked for. She replied that she wouldn't tell him, only that she had come to this organization to retrieve the stolen data her company had taken. Surprised by her foolish answer, Fan and Ling looked at her silently. Fan noticed a small note sticking out from her cleavage and grabbed it with two of his claws. Embarrassed, the woman blushed. It was a map that Fan examined closely. Lion Mountain was depicted on it, and he realized that people had their eye on his territory. Another helicopter was about to land on the building's roof. Our group heard through the corridors as a person informed someone named Lord Luo Yi that the people from headquarters were about to arrive. Fan was somewhat surprised that it happened so quickly. Ling, still in Yun's body, recognized the name and became very angry. If you like this video and want to see next part, so please subscribe my channel.